thanks for dropping by. I'm Ian. Many of you know your way around the internet, but I thought I'd show you just a few of the features of the site to help you to leave a comment, listen to a podcast episode both on the site, or download them through iTunes so that you can listen to them via your MP3 player. Okay, so here we have the site sitting in a browser window. And as you know, what we've got is a blog, and our blog has all the information in reverse chronological order. So if you go right down the bottom here, you've got the older posts up to the most recent posts, which is this one that I put up just today. Also along the top, we've got the navigation bar, which has got the home button, about, contacts, a bit of information about me, the podcast episodes, and there'll be numerous other ones coming along here in due course. Now, there are several different ways that you can consume the content on the site. The most obvious, of course, is to come to the site and actually have a look at what's here and listen to a podcast episode. But there's also RSS subscription, and that's what this here is. This is a button to subscribe in an RSS feed reader. RSS, for those who don't know, is really simple syndication. By clicking on this, you get to go to the site content in a slightly different format, which is the way the feed is generated and the way it is shipped out for use by a reader. I use Google Reader. There are several types of readers out there. If I click on this button, there's all these other alternatives, a few more down here. There's quite a few different ways of getting it. Like I said, I use Google Reader. So if we click on Google, it will take me directly to my Google Reader, and when I click on Add to Google Reader, it will simply add Create Your Life Story to, and here it is over here, to all the different subscriptions I've got. Now, the word subscription in the world of the internet and podcasting and all this sort of thing does not involve money. It just means that you're getting the information. And what we've got here is we've got a quick summary of all the different episodes that are available, as you can see, with the latest one being at the top here. If you click on initially, you just get a bit of a summary and you can read it as is. And if you want to go to a podcast episode, like here's podcast episode 1, it actually brings it up, and there's even a player along the bottom here. So you can listen to it here as well. This is a very convenient way. This way it just gets downloaded directly to your reader, and you don't have to worry about going to the site, and every time you go back to Google Reader, there it is. A lot of people use these because they might be interested in all sorts of different subject matter, and what they'll do is they'll bundle all of their subscriptions for certain groupings under one title, and then they can just go to one for food, and there might be 5 different blogs that they go to read about food. Okay, so let's just go back to the main site. Now, for the reader, I've got a very good video to explain exactly how all that works, which I'll put underneath this particular video on this page as well. So if you have a look at that, you'll understand what a reader is in a lot more detail. In case you don't know, this being the front page of the site means that we've got all this information here, but each of these titles are a clickable link that takes us to a post by itself. And if you look up here in the menu bar, it says createyourlifestory.com. Whereas if we come down, and I want to go to one of the podcast episodes here, so here's episode 3. If I click on that link, if you watch up the top here, you'll notice that this changes to Create Your Life Story, and then a whole heap of other information, because now we're on this post alone. And if I scroll down, there is no more information. And this is a place to leave a comment and to get a few extra features like these share buttons, so that you can leave a comment on Twitter, on Reddit, StumbleOn, and the like, Technorati, and you can leave comments on all those places as well. I encourage you to do that. It helps me a great deal. So this is an actual episode, and within a blog post here, what we've got also is we've got the podcast player. To play a podcast episode in the player here on the page, the easiest thing to do is you just come over here to the play button and press play, and it opens. And in a moment, it'll start doing its thing. And that's the episode. We've got the volume button here, and we can adjust the volume, make it quieter or louder. Now, it's worth noting also that this red line along the bottom here, I hope it's red, is how much of the episode has been downloaded, whereas this line here where the hand is pointing is how much have we played so far. If I grab that, I can scroll forward up to where we've downloaded. And there I am talking, but I can't go any further than that. But you can scroll back and you can go scroll forward to wherever you want. You can pause it anytime you like by simply clicking pause button and it goes away. Now you can just press the pause button, and while it's paused like this, it is still downloading in the background, as you can see. And it will continue to download so long as you don't move away from this page, this particular browser window, and refresh it or anything like that. If you refresh it, it'll zero back. Now, if you want to listen to the podcast episode in another way, you can click on here. This will open it in a new window. Or if you want to download it and actually play it later on at some stage, whereby maybe you want to transfer it onto an MP3 player, you can click this button here and it will download to your desktop or wherever you download all of your information. But what I encourage you to do is to go to iTunes, because iTunes is an amazing resource of easy to access podcast episodes, because it works very much like this RSS reader up here, in that it's actually a podcast reader. And what happens is whenever I publish a new episode, iTunes goes out, notices that a new one's been published, it goes out and grabs it, downloads it and puts it automatically for you on your iTunes. That means that when you come along in 6 hours time, you can have a look in iTunes and magically a podcast episode will be sitting there. Now, if you use an iPod as well and you plug that into iTunes, it'll automatically get transferred across to your iPod. So you'll be walking around outside and you'll look down and all of a sudden you'll have a new podcast episode sitting on your iPod because you had plugged it in at some stage. I've got a few links here as well. I've got a link to iTunes here. I've got another link to iTunes here. So there's lots of ways of you getting there. You've also got a way of writing a review, which I encourage you to do, and I'll show you what that's about in a moment. But over here on the right, we've got this big fat image here, which is one big clickable image that will take you to iTunes. So if we click on that, it'll now open a browser window for iTunes, as you can see. And now what it's going to do is it's going to open the iTunes store automatically. And here we have the iTunes store with all the different podcast episodes there. You can sit here, you can actually play an episode here as well. And have a bit of a listen to it and see what you think of it. But what I encourage you to do is to subscribe. If you're familiar with this, this is a good place for you to review. By clicking on this button here, you can leave a few comments. It'd be great if you could actually leave a bit of information on iTunes for people who come along and want to listen to your story so they know what it's about. Now, to subscribe, click on subscribe for free, which of course it is. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes, I am. I click on subscribe, and now you can see over on the left-hand side here, it says downloads, and it's downloading that episode. If I go to my podcasts and in Create Your Life Story, just here, you can see it's got the orange arrowy thingy doing its stuff, and you can see that it's downloading the latest episode. Now, this is the way it works. It always downloads the very latest episode. By clicking on Get All, you get all episodes, or you can click on the individual ones. By the time you get here, hopefully there will be several dozens of different podcast episodes here that you can listen to. So that's how the iTunes store works. Please drop in and leave a comment, and I look forward to you doing that. Now, back over on the site, if you'd like to leave a comment, this is where you leave it. Simply put in your name, an email address. Now, that's more or less for security purposes, so I know that I'm not being spammed by a robot or something like this. If you've got a web address, throw that in there and then place your comment in here. If you want to stay in the loop as far as a conversation that might be going on, click on this little checkbox here and you'll get an email notifying you when somebody else comments. My site is set up to use Gravatars. Gravatars are an image it's an avatar of yourself, maybe. It could be a photograph or whatever you choose to use. And it's used to add a bit of personality to the comment. If you want to use Gravatars rather than the standard one that the site's going to throw up, which is just a square box with a bit of a pattern in it, you can go to gravatar.com and sign up there and give them an image that you would like to use. Now that image is actually connected to your email address. So wherever you use that email address in the comments field where Gravatars have been set up on any site and on my site, you'll be able to use that same image simply by putting the same email in here. If you put a different email in there, it won't work and it'll just put in the default image for the avatar. But I strongly encourage you to pop over to Gravatar and put an image there and link up to it. I'll put a link to Gravatar, I'll put a link to all sorts of things in amongst this page as well, so that it is easy for you to be able to do all of these things, and getting around the site will be an absolute pleasure for you. Well, that's it. Hopefully that little bit of information will make it easier for you to listen to podcast episodes and make comments when you'd like to. Thanks for dropping by.